Hi, guys. Welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. This is the last show of 2023. Kind of hard to believe, but we're moving into 2024, and like I said, Eli's with us, and he's been with us since June, and he's going to be with us for a long time coming. So, thanks everybody for joining us. Hope you had a great Christmas, and yeah, we got a bunch of stuff we're going to cover this week. So let's jump right in and.
Before we get to your monologue, we have a comment from Andrew Carolyn.
Andrew
Uh,
Carolyn. Yep. Good
Carolyn,
morning,
yep. Good
Andrew, and
morning.
happy New Year
Happy
to
New
you
Year as
too,
well.
my friend. Yep.
All right, let's go to Jim for the monologue.
All right. So I'm gonna start off with this because it's something that I think we kind of touched on right now is the college bowl scene. It's almost becoming almost obsolete. And the reason is I know a lot has to do with this transfer portal. A lot has to do with guys opting out now, which is something that we never really saw until I think kind of the first big name to opt out was Christian McCaffrey when he was at Stanford because he was going to the NFL. So it kind of changes and takes away from the luster of games like the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl. Yes, we do have the Final Four teams still to go, but you can't get excited when you see your starting quarterbacks or your marquee players. Like perfect example, Ohio State, right? Kyle McCord transfers, and so he's been your quarterback all year. He's not playing. Marvin Harrison certainly going to the NFL, so he doesn't play, and they go down and they lose to Missouri, which on any given bowl day, things like that could happen. But when you're missing your two-star players, that's a recipe for disaster. So I would love to hear people's feedback because bowl games for me on New Year's Day and my brother Steve was everything, and we watched them all. There was just a great day for college football, and it always ended with the Orange Bowl and the Sugar Bowl at night. So it just doesn't have that same excitement that it once did. Maybe that will change now that they're going to be expanding the playoff format to 12 teams come next year. But let's just go, like Notre Dame, right? So Notre Dame, another perfect example, didn't have Sam Hartman. He's opting out again because he's going to the NFL. So, that changes the whole landscape of the game. And I'll give credit to Steve Angeli, who was a former Bergen Catholic quarterback who led Notre Dame to a blowout win yesterday. So congratulations to him. But overall, the bowl games, when you're seeing teams that are 5-7 playing in a bowl game. I mean, how can you get excited about that? But we're going to talk about college football in a little bit after our NFL segment. We'll get back to that, but I'd love to hear people's thoughts on that because the
Yeah,
opting out has really changed the landscape of the bowl season.
yeah. I don't think that opting out is a great decision. You're in a bowl game, just play the game and call it a day. Regardless if you're playing in the NFL and you're entering the draft upcoming or what the deal is, just play it, have fun with it. In regards to bowl games, I enjoy it a lot. I enjoy watching it. I think it's good that they separate it out for like each day, so then you get to have a feel like, oh well, I didn't hear about this team a lot. Let's learn about it. Let's watch about it. Now, I don't say it's the best decision in the world because there are a lot of weekday games we don't really want to see. Obviously when it's always on the one Saturday game, everything's perfect. Obviously with
Yep.
the New Year's decision, I think it's a good idea, but I think it takes away from the marquee games, and I think that's the whole reason why we're pushing it back. And it's all about the viewership, and I think that's the
Yeah.
reason why now it's only less and less games, and now it's only like 5 games, I believe, on Monday. So that is
Yeah.
and that's important, I think, and that's what these guys feel. And trust me, there's
Yep.
still plenty more bowl games to come. We have 4 today, one on Barstool, which is not on ESPN for once, and the rest are on ESPN and ABC on Monday. So that's just something to
Yeah.
look out for. Great
Yep.
games to come, and they're a great tournament and great way to have fun.
Well, listen. Let's. Why don't we stick with college football just for a minute, and we'll get into our NFL while
Yeah,
we're on this topic. So, couple of notable bowl wins. Right, was Rutgers beat Miami,
Rice, right? That was huge.
and Eli and I were just talking about that before the show. Miami is 1-11 in their last 12 bowl games. Can you
Yeah,
believe that?
I can't believe it.
really. But that was a big win for Rutgers, which got them their first above 500 season in quite a while.
Yeah.
So
And
that
shout
was
out
good
to
for them.
the crew at ESPN and Drew Carter, who was calling the game. When he ended the game and the Rutgers won, he goes, "The Scarlet Knights win," as the Yankees announcer does at the end of every Yankees win. So that was a great job by Drew Carter and the ESPN group for doing that. That was a good touch since it
Yeah,
was at Yankee Stadium.
yeah, that was the Bad Boy Mowers. No, not Bad Boy Mowers. What,
Yeah, it
Big
was
Boy
bad boy,
Mowers or something? Huh?
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like,
So that was, that was notable for the New Jersey folks.
yeah, we don't really get a win here, so it's good to see something good.
Right, but there's one other interesting game before we get into making our picks for the two
The two games,
big games, right? The Orange Bowl is still an interesting game. You have Florida State
right?
playing Georgia, right? So
It's a good
you
game.
look on paper, right? They lost Daniels, not Daniels. Who's Florida State? Travis. No, I always get these two
All right,
mixed up,
I'll get it. Hold on, Florida State
right?
Travis. Something.
Um, so I don't know. That doesn't really have any overall implications because you would
Jordan
be
Travis.
yeah, Travis, Jordan Travis, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's not playing. So you would think on paper that they don't stand a chance against Georgia, and all likelihood they probably won't. But you saw when Caleb Williams opted out in USC, this kid came off the bench and threw 6 touchdown passes. So
Right.
that's kind of the upside of the bowl season. Like I said, the Notre Dame quarterback came up big in their win yesterday, right? But of all of the games, of course, right? We got the two big games, right? We got
Sugar and the Rose.
the Sugar and the Rose. So let's start with the first game, Alabama, Michigan,
Yep.
right?
5 o'clock ESPN. Pat McAfee alternate field pass broadcast available on ESPN2.
Yep. So this has been, like I said, I've been contemplating who I'm going to pick in these two games because you got top quality teams, right?
Absolutely.
Regardless of whether or not your position is Florida State
And
got
whether
got
if you
screwed,
believe they should be there or not, based off what
right.
the committee voted.
So Alabama, Michigan, and I've been, like I said, my passion for Nick Saban and Alabama, and I've kind of been underestimating Michigan most of the season, but this kid McCarthy has really shown me something. So I'm going to be surprisingly. I'm not a Jim Harbaugh fan, but I rarely go against Nick Saban. But I think this time around that Michigan uh, can step up and win. They got a great offensive line. McCarthy's been playing great. They got a good running game. But this is very unusual. This is the first time I think these guys have met, and I don't know,
Forever.
not ever, but probably in quite some time. But I'm going to go with Michigan in this game, and that goes against my better judgment. But I see they seem to have it all together. So that's my pick for
Yeah,
that game. What do you like in the game, Eli?
I'm going to take Michigan over Alabama. I like what Nick Saban's been doing with Alabama, but something tells me, Michigan, they're a sneaky good team. They might hide everything what the cameras see with those tarps. I know with all the Fox coverage, but I know they're still a good team. They're a team everybody talks about. They're a team that's going to beat Alabama, but that's going to be an epic first start to the game. And I'm going to take Michigan over Alabama.
Yeah, and the only thing that I see, which makes me wonder whether I'm making the right pick or not, is because I think this Jalen Milroe has been underestimated all season until he's put up good numbers, but it came out the other day that Bill O'Brien, the former offensive coordinator at Alabama, told him, "You're not a quarterback. You shouldn't be playing quarterback." And
That's true.
so he's got a bone to pick with them. So if he comes up big, that's the only X factor that was
Positive.
why I went with Michigan. But I'm not going to be surprised if Milroe goes, and Milroe's going to lead Alabama. But right now, I'm going to stick with Michigan in that game. And
Yeah.
then what's the second game? Texas,
Sugar
Washington.
Bowl is Texas, Washington, 8:45 ESPN. Also, Pat McAfee alternate field pass available on ESPN2.
And this is really when you look at both teams, this is a difficult game to pick, right? When you
Eh,
look at the quarterbacks, you got Quinn Ewers, who's had a really great year, and Texas has had just a great year too. But you're also going against Michael Penix, and they came up big twice against Oregon. So this is difficult, but I'm actually going to take Texas over Washington because
wow.
I know it does. It sounds like that's an upset in the making. I don't see it as that. I don't even know. Like I said, I don't do point spreads or any of that. But
No,
this is a very good matchup and a very tough game to pick. But I'm going to go with the Texas Longhorns in this game.
I'm going to take Washington over Texas right from the start when they won on the game-winning field goal just a few weeks ago versus
Okay.
Oregon. I knew from the start Washington was going to go far, and this is the moment, this is the year for them. So I am taking Washington over Texas, and don't be surprised if they do go far in the playoffs and into
I
the
know.
championship.
Yeah, I know a lot of people could be surprised by my pick, so I'm sticking with them.
All right, no problem.
No,
Now I got a
Michigan.
question for everybody. What is your favorite bowl game that has happened? Now, I don't mean about the football concept, but like the theme of it. Like, what was your favorite one of it? Like, I thought the one this year I thought was pretty unique was the whole Pop Tart Bowl. Like, I don't eat Pop Tarts, but I thought the mascot memes were hilarious. It coming out of a toaster and becoming a edible mascot was hilarious. That was a
Yeah.
pretty good, interesting bowl.
Well,
Let
the other
the
one was another interesting with this mayonnaise bowl or some
yeah Mayo
crazy
Bowl.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I don't
feel
think
free
I
to.
want. I don't think I want 10 gallons of mayonnaise dumped on my head though. But if
Yeah,
I won
no,
the
not me
ball game,
either.
I guess I
No,
could live
thank
with
you.
it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let us know your thoughts. What is your favorite bowl game, and who is your picks for these games? Alabama or Michigan, and Texas or Washington? Let us know in the chats. We'd love to hear your thoughts, or leave us a comment, or send the email to the Sports with Mono Gmail account.
All right. So we're gonna have to revisit this in 2024 because so we'll
Yes.
see. Eli's going with Michigan and Washington, and I'm going with Michigan and Texas. So
Yeah.
enjoy the games. Like I said, the pomp and circumstance. I've been watching like the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl for many years. I remember some vividly the Sugar Bowl with Alabama, Penn State back in the late '70s, and um, you asked me some of my great memories. I mean, I remember watching. The Rose Bowl was always, they called it the granddaddy of them all kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was always the Pac 10 versus the Big 10, which is now Pac 12, whatever, Big 12. It's
It
crazy.
changes every year, pretty much, basically.
But, but we've seen great players come out of this format of college football. And there was no opting out back then. It was great. So that's why my monologue was kind of,
Geared
we
towards that.
lose a little bit of that luster over course of time. So,
Absolutely.
but anyway, enjoy the game, folks. Love to hear some comments and send us an email, of course, at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com. And all right, Eli, let's jump right into the big boys league, the
Yes,
National
the Big
Football
Boys
League,
League.
right?
We got drama.
Yeah, we do. Playoff picture is starting to unfold, and it's still far from
Complete.
settled, right?
Like
Yeah.
last year, we were at a point where at this time we were just waiting for one or two teams. This year, we're waiting for practically the entire AFC to load up and three teams to go in the NFC, and the board is still full. That is the
Yep.
sad part, and it's still anybody's game. And there's still a few divisional matchups happening this weekend, which is gonna be huge.
Yeah. So we got, like I said, it's very unsettled right now. So there's only 2 games left. So let's take a look at the AFC first. And
Yes, we'll start with the AFC.
it's starting to look like Baltimore is kind of at the top of the food
Right,
chain in the AFC.
right. I
But look
believe if
what's
they
going
win,
on. I mean, let's just see other teams that are approaching. If you told me 6 weeks ago that the Cleveland Browns would be potentially, depending on what happens the last 2 weeks of the season, could be the number one seed in the AFC, I would have laughed in your face.
I
And then,
agree.
and right, and now this guy Joe Flacco gets pulled off the couch, comes in, and he's playing like a Hall of Famer for the past 5 weeks. Um, so I don't know how this is going to play out. I
Now,
think the Flacco bubble is going to burst at some point. but we'll
Right.
see.
So now to give you some altercation for those watching, if the Ravens do win this weekend, they will more than likely get the number one seed. That will be locked and loaded because Miami would drop to 11-5. Ravens would go to 13-3. Even if the Browns win next week, that's not enough to win the division nor on top. However, if the Ravens lose, the Browns still have a chance technically
They
because
do.
if they win this week and the Ravens lose next week, it changes everything. Now,
Well,
I'm not
listen,
saying
I mean,
to trust Joe Flacco as the quarterback heading into the playoffs. Yes, he's good. Yes, the Browns are doing better, but they also played the Jets this weekend. Play a tougher team coming up, and that changes the whole game around.
yep. And who are we not even talking about, which is unusual when we're talking about the AFC, and that's the Kansas
Patrick
City Chiefs.
Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Exactly right.
Yes.
And that's happening right before our eyes. I mean, I know they're struggling, but it's still Patrick Mahomes. So I mean, somebody's going to have to beat them at some point. But you have teams like the Raiders, believe it or not, at 7-8, are still hanging
They're
around
still in it.
potentially.
They're
If
in it.
things go, crazy, they could back in. And we had the whole situation with Denver. They were on a roll, and now the whole Russell Wilson thing is kind of blown up
Yeah.
in Denver.
So
Um,
let's start with the Chiefs real quick. You know, when you look at how Tyreek Hill performed last year before he went to Miami, it goes to show how much Kansas City needs Tyreek Hill as that
yeah, I
open
know.
wide receiver available.
Yep,
Now gone, you only have Kelsey left, and you only have a few other guys that are, not that great of a choice.
yep,
Patrick Mahomes this year has not been the same, and that loss last week to the Raiders was so big and so huge that it's
it
like, well,
was
this is a new Chiefs. They will more than likely make the playoffs, but we will not be entertained as we were in the past few years.
agreed.
And
Agreed.
I think that is going to be huge. When you go to the
Yep.
Raiders now, the Raiders, I don't think are going to make the playoffs. I'll say that now because they're 2 games behind the Chiefs. I think they're going to miss it this year. But I would
Yeah.
like to say, though, the coaching staff and the change that has happened in Las Vegas is absolutely huge, and it paid off. In the beginning, I was like, I don't know if it's going to pay off. It paid off. It truly did. And
Yeah.
now we will see, even if it's not a playoff season this year, keep uh keep him as the head coach next year and stick with it. Because this actually could be the new Raiders come 2024 into 2025. So that is something
Yep.
to look at. And then you look
And
at
there's
Denver.
there's actually yeah,
Go
there's
ahead.
actually there's actually two teams that we haven't talked about that could have an impact in the playoffs. And that's Miami and Buffalo.
Yeah, they do. I mean, Miami's already got the playoff spot, but Buffalo's still trying to be in it to win it. Now they have a kind of easy matchup versus the Patriots tomorrow that should guarantee them, I believe, a playoff spot. A 9-6, yeah, they get a 10 that should be able to make the playoffs without a problem. But it's still questionable though. But yeah, I think Buffalo
Yeah.
will make the playoffs. They're not going to be as exciting as we think. And although we say the AFC is loaded, I don't think it's as competitive as we think come playoff time. That's just my early prediction for playoffs.
Yeah, and I think the biggest story, for me is, I haven't been sold on Miami all year. They've had trouble beating teams with a 500 record, but they had
Right.
the Tua and Tyreek Hill combination, and the way Mostert's been playing, they do have the potential to make some noise. I don't
Would you
feel
say
comfortable enough.
would you say with the win over the Cowboys last week gives the Dolphins a chance at going far in the playoffs, considering that they are a playoff team and a team over 500?
Well, it certainly does lend credence to that. It's working in Miami. The whole McDaniel thing, it's working. But yes, that was a big win. If
Yes.
I was thinking if they couldn't beat Dallas, they're not going anywhere in the playoffs. So it gives a little bit of glimmer of hope for Dolphins fans. I just don't know if that's the team. Let's just say somehow it works out that Kansas City plays Miami. I would go with Kansas City because I just
Yeah.
don't have this complete
Don't have the feeling
thing.
with Miami.
And Buffalo, to be quite honest, I mean, they started out had some rough games in the beginning, and um, they're starting to play much much better. So I think they're going to at least get their first round win. I don't know who it's going to be. We'll talk about that next week when we
next week,
actually
right?
we have a
Have an
better
idea.
picture of the playoffs and who's going to play who. But Baltimore, and I've been on their train all year. I'm still thinking they could make some
If
noise.
And I believe with the win last week that Baltimore had over San Francisco, that was huge. Now, the 2 points given up in the first quarter for the safety, blame on the ref, folks, because that was bad. How do you trip on your own self and to give the 49ers safety? I thought that was a crazy moment there.
Yeah,
I know a lot of
it
people
was
not happy about that with 2-0
right.
as the start of the game. But the Ravens, if they could be a team so good as the 49ers, who we believe at the beginning was this team to be in the Super Bowl this year, that goes to show the Ravens have the talent, the Ravens have the skill, and if they could beat a team like the 49ers, they are a team to watch. They will make it to the Super Bowl and have a chance at winning this whole thing.
Yeah, it's possible. It's
And it's a
possible.
possibility.
I
And now
mean,
if you
listen. Yeah,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go.
Well, I just don't know that I would put my chips on Lamar Jackson. He hasn't shown me to be the big game
That's
guy
true.
that can get you there. But listen, like we said, we'll end the AFC on this note. So
Well,
with Jacksonville, I mean, they're going to get into the playoffs most likely. But
I don't think
be
so.
honest with you, that's still
No,
not even settled. Who's going to win? I mean, they're,
no.
they're not going to stand a chance without Trevor Lawrence. That's for sure.
Well, Trevor Lawrence is out, by the way, for this upcoming week, as well as a few
I
other guys.
know.
We'll get to the names in just a little bit. But with Trevor Lawrence out and the Jaguars playing the Panthers, they have the Panthers this weekend. The Panthers have played pretty good these past few games. Not saying that they
Yeah.
didn't win the games, but they kept it
Yep.
close. Last week with Green Bay, they kept it by 3. And I had, it's not one of our games to pick this week, but on my show, the 1200 podcast, I picked the Panthers to upset the Jaguars this weekend. I think that the Jaguars are not contenders yet. Why do I
Well,
think so?
certainly they don't stand a chance without Trevor Lawrence. I
No,
mean,
they don't stand a chance.
and you look
And
at
keep in
you look
mind,
at the competition. Look at the competition in
right?
that
I was
division.
just
You
going to
still
mention that.
have the Texans hanging around.
You have the Texans throwing it around. They have the Titans this week, who they beat without CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud is now out of the concussion protocol, has a chance possibly of going far with this Texans team, which I predicted from day one once I saw CJ Stroud perform with the Texans. I think that is a team to watch out for when it comes to the Texans. And
Yeah, and you got to look at the other team, like
the
the
Colts, too.
Indianapolis Colts. Do you believe in the Colts or not? I mean,
That's the thing. I do like Minshew. I like what he's been doing. However, the Colts are good. I just don't think. I think it's gonna come down to the wire, but they're gonna somehow miss it just short. Maybe they'll make it, and I hope they do because my friend Jack, I hope he get, for his team. Hopefully they do good,
eh,
but I think they'll fall short just a little bit. And before we get into some more, we have a comment from Eric. Good morning and happy New Year to you all.
all right, that's Eric Tenbrook, one of my our loyal listener from Westchester, Pennsylvania, and not only is a dear friend of mine, but a loyal listener week after week. And thanks, Eric. And
And
we wish you and your family a happy New Year as well. So,
before we move off the AFC, there's one thing that we forgot to talk about that was huge. This whole Russell Wilson stuff. He is now benched for the last 2 games. This
yep.
is ultimately going down as the worst trade in the NFL history. And the amount of stuff that Denver gave up to Seattle was huge. Now, as a Seahawks fan, I'm happy to see, how much we got out of this trade. But it's, unfortunate to see the circumstance. It all is coming
Yes, it
down
is.
basically to money. It is coming down to money. And to be honest with you, we've seen improvement from the first year. First year was not a good year for Russell Wilson. This year, however, he played. He didn't. I wouldn't say he was great, but he did okay. And I
Yeah,
think that was an improvement for Russell Wilson. But at the end of the day, in Denver, it is coming down to what is one person like that's going to make everybody happy,
right.
and that's what it
And
seems like
and
to be.
and the whole situation in Denver is for some reason. I mean, you could see it all year long. Wilson was having a fairly decent year, but
Yeah,
Sean Payton does not trust him for some reason or other, and that was the big story. So, what is Sean Payton's plan B to replace Russell Wilson? And as you pointed out, Eli, without a lot of draft capital that they gave up, like a good. I was thinking if they could package some kind of deal to move up, and take somebody like a Drake May or somebody like that who is more in line with, I think, what Sean Payton envisions, the way he had Drew Brees in all those
Yeah.
years in New Orleans. But you're right. This is a big move by them to move on from Russell Wilson. Don't know how much he still has left in the tank, but yeah, it's gotten pretty ugly in Denver.
Oh, absolutely. It is ugly in Denver. And
Yep.
now the question is, where's he going to go next? And you have to ask this question because you look at the draft market coming up this year, and you have tons of quarterbacks, incredible quarterbacks entering the draft this year. And there are teams that
Yep.
are going to collect him. So now where is this person going to go? Where is
Yep.
Russell Wilson going to go if they decide to trade him in March? If I
And
had
a
a
lot of
prediction, I would have
a
said
lot of
Patriots,
that depends
but
on whether or not they just outright cut him and they got to take the salary hit, the dead cap space, all that kind of stuff. I don't know what his marketability is in a trade, but you know, whether he has stuff left in the tank or not, I mean, he's had a pretty decent year, but it's not going to be in Denver next year. That's for sure.
absolutely.
So let's move to the NFC,
Yeah.
Eli, and that's again pretty wide open. But like you pointed out, I still do believe in the San Francisco 49ers being the best team in the league, especially after the Philadelphia Eagles start the season 9, 10, and 1, and they've just played awful the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season.
To go to
Nobody's going to go undefeated. We know that, but I think on paper, um, Brock Purdy may have gotten his worst game of the season out of the way, which is good for them. Christian McCaffrey, I think, is the leading candidate for MVP.
absolutely. There is no question.
And so, I mean, we know what's going on there. So Philadelphia ran away with the division. There's been,
And to go with
and Dallas is still in the mix.
Yeah, let's go with those three teams for a second. I'll start with San Francisco. Big loss last week versus the Ravens. It was a
Yep.
good loss when I spoke to a few 49ers fans. They said it was a good loss and that we needed that. To say that, okay, yeah, we're humble. Yeah, we'll lose some games. Still,
Yep.
yeah, I agree. They're still a team to be in. They're still a Super Bowl team, regardless if they lost to the Ravens or not. When you look at the Eagles, they had a very easy schedule to start. And that is the reason why they were at the level they were.
Yep.
Now you look at them and they're playing pretty decent tough teams, and it's like, well, you're not doing that great. You're not the team we saw in week one, not in week two. So it's
Yep.
it's just it's interesting to see that, hey, we have a new team here, new Eagles group ready to go, and now where do you stand with the Cowboys? Here is the problem with the Cowboys: they only do good at home. They lost bad last week to Miami. It was by a field goal last minute. They should win today versus the Lions. By the way, we have a Saturday game today. For those interested.
We do. We do.
Yes. So, well, yeah, that's what I say. You have the Lions team where it's like, yeah, you could still win today. The Lions are good team, but the Cowboys love to win at home. They cannot win away, and that is
Yeah.
a struggle. And the problem is with the Eagles, they have a very easy schedule. They have the Commanders. No, they have
And the
the
Giants.
Cardinals this week, and then the Eagles have the Giants next week.
Yep.
Easy schedule. They will more than likely win the division. Dallas would play the road game, which would eliminate Dallas immediately in my
Mhm.
book because Dallas can't win an away game. They can only win home, and without the division win, that's not going to help them.
Yeah. That's a good take on it because they are almost unstoppable at home, but I don't even know how many they're gonna have to go on the road
Yeah.
um, to win. So that's and then the other question of the other team you brought up, and you went right over it by saying they should easily beat Detroit tonight, but is Detroit for real? Can we count on Jared Goff? I
No,
mean, I don't know. I mean,
I'm
he
gonna
could
go.
go either way.
I'm gonna go ahead and say no on this statement because, well, number one, they have Dallas Sunday at home. Dallas has that. That's the first thing. Number two, we never saw Detroit in the playoffs. They have no playoff. They don't really have playoff experience.
None.
So going into the playoffs is gonna be tough. And at the moment, they have the 3 seed. So now the question is, they will more than likely either stay at 3 or 4. 3 seed you'll have either the Rams or Seattle if those are the two teams that get 6 and 7. That's not exactly easy because the Rams and Seattle are pretty good teams,
They're
as
playing
well
well.
as anybody else that's in the hunt. You got to keep in mind, you still have the Rams, Seattle, Buccaneers, and we still have the player teams in the hut still. We have the Vikings, Packers, Saints, Falcons, all these teams still open.
Yep.
So in regards to the Lions, I don't think that they will go far in the playoffs. Maybe they could win the first round game. Don't see them going to like the conference or the Super Bowl. Maybe they'll get lucky with the first round win. But I do not trust the Lions being for real. I think that's one of those teams where it's like, yeah, let's just hype them up real quick. When it comes time for playoffs, it's like, oh, hold on 1 second. New team here, new
But you gotta
players.
give Dan Campbell some credit though
Absolutely, though.
for bringing this guy. He really is a motivating coach for a team that has, just been abysmal for 20 years. So,
Yeah.
I think that could be an X factor. I'm not ruling them out beating Dallas tonight because I don't know. Um, this isn't going to be the easiest home game for Dallas. So
It's not the easiest home game for Dallas, but it should be a good win. And you're also honoring, by the way, Jimmy Johnson tonight, which is of course a legend in into the Ring of Honor for Dallas. So
long
that's a
overdue. Long
long
overdue.
overdue, exactly. So that is
Yep.
a great note there. But that's not the only team that we just look out for. We also have 3 quarterback changes in the NFC as well. We have to also look at too. You have the Giants going from the Cutlet Tommy DeVito to Tyrod Taylor. Commanders going from Sam Howell to Jacob Brissett. And the Vikings from Nick
Right.
Mullins to Jaron Holland. It's Jaron Hall, sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
you have
So
changes all around. It's
when we look at the teams that are still fighting, I mean these are teams that are no not even at 500. The Vikings and
the
the
Vikings,
Saints, they're
Packers,
still in
Saints.
the mix and
No.
so forth. But
Well, the Saints are still in the because the Buccaneers have to win. The Buccaneers need to,
right.
and then that secures the spot there. Saints should be gone from there.
And I don't think you can count on Baker Mayfield to get
No,
the job done. So, but you brought it up before. I think the team that people have been kind of negating, myself included, because they started off pretty slow. But the Rams have really rebounded, and
they
they're a
have
team
rebounded.
that could back into the playoffs and make some noise.
Yeah,
Because
they
Stafford,
did not have a great start, but they will have a chance to go far. But that doesn't also count out Seattle either, because if Detroit or Philadelphia get the 2 or 3 seed, and Seattle gets into the 6 or 7 seed,
yep,
keep in mind Seattle beat both those teams once in overtime, once in a crazy game. So that
yep,
opens up Seattle. Doesn't matter if it's in Seattle or in
yep.
Detroit or in Philadelphia. Seattle's got to be careful. They're still open as well.
I
Not
know
just
they are.
because I'm a Seahawks fan, but because if they do win, they will play either those two, one of those 2 teams, and those 2 teams they beat, as long as it's not Dallas, which
Let
Dallas
me
is
ask.
five.
Let me ask our resident Seahawks fan here: are they going with Drew Luck or Geno Smith to get them into the playoffs?
I don't know, but what I've noticed though, they started Geno Smith last week, and that seemed to work out. I think what Pete Carroll should do is switch per week because I think when you rest one, go with one. That pattern worked. You had Drew Lock. I think it was a great decision for not starting Drew Lock versus last week versus the Titans,
Okay,
and I
okay.
think it helped. It paid off. So I think by going with Geno Smith last week was good. This week, I'd say go with Drew Lock to start, then go to Geno for Week 18 to secure the money and secure the deal.
Well,
That's
I
what I
think
say.
going into the playoffs, you have to establish who your leader is going to be. So they
The
gotta they
thing
gotta
is,
pick it one way or the
the
other.
thing is with Seattle is you have one week one quarterback does good, the next week the other quarterback does better and has a horrible week. It's just a wishy-washy situation you have to
Yeah.
look at.
Well, all right. So listen, we covered this. We're gonna have the conversation next week, which could be completely different because depending on what happens this week.
Yes. And I wanted to just bring up 3 thoughts real quick before we go to the picks. Bears are signing kicker, re-signing Cario Santos, the kicker, for a 4-year contract, $16 million.
Mhm.
And also NBA lost to the NFL in viewership on Christmas Day by over 20 million. NFL won. The most views went to the Raiders Chiefs game. And finally, lots of players out this Sunday, including top ones Trevor Lawrence, Zach Moss, Darius Slay, and Jalen Waddle, all out this weekend. So that is some crucial players to keep in mind about when playing, in the fantasy championship this weekend. If you're in it, I'm out.
Yep.
Or if you're a fan of one of these teams. So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind about.
All right, and before we get to our picks, you know how I always love to see the Hall of Fame list, so that we got the finalists, right? Julius
Yes.
Peppers, Antonio Gates. I think those guys are absolutely absolutely going to get in. Is Julius Peppers Bruce Smith or Reggie White?
No.
No, but he's pretty close. So I think he goes in. And there's a couple other ones that should be on the fence. And I hope they do get in because you had two of them were Colts, right? Was Dwight Freeney and Reggie Wayne. And Dwight Freeney was one of the most underrated defensive players for 10 years. And I believe he deserves to go to the Hall of Fame. And Reggie Wayne had a great career. I believe he does too. And there's one other pick. He did make the finalists. That's Rodney Harrison, right? Started out his career
Right.
with San Diego, won a couple of titles with Belichick. And Belichick came out yesterday and said he belongs in the Hall of Fame, which, that's pretty good for me. I'll take Rodney Harrison. But I think the surefire locks are Gates and Peppers and the other guys. I don't know why Freeney's, he's been retired for, this isn't his first time on the ballot. I'm not sure what people didn't see in him, but
Right.
he was a great player. He was a great player.
Absolutely.
So let's do our picks, Eli. We were both 2-1 last week. This week we got some tough games. We got to pick here, right? So I'm gonna start off with first game Detroit versus Dallas, and like I said, I think both you and I are taking Dallas, but I'm not going to be shocked if Detroit wins the game. But you got to pick one or the other. So
I will be.
Dallas.
I'll be shocked because Dallas never has
wins at
lost,
home.
Never lost at home, so they always win at home. So I will absolutely be shocked. And then I will say, yes, Detroit has a shot. Yes, they will go far if they can do so.
Right. So I know you're going with Dallas in that. So, so the second game, and this is a very good game, Miami and Baltimore, and this is where I want to see, how Tua and Miami can stack up against, Lamar Jackson and a solid defense. So, I like I told you, I'm not a believer in this. I'm going to go with Baltimore to beat Miami in the second game. And the third game is Cincinnati, Kansas City. And we talked about this. Cincinnati has not been the same, obviously, without Joe Burrow, but they still have Patrick Mahomes. So I'm sticking with Kansas City. I think Patrick Mahomes is so committed to winning that, he's not going to let this one slip away. So Dallas, Baltimore, Kansas City for me. What says you?
We do or die together. That's the message. I'm taking the Cowboys to win 33-21. Cowboys have not lost at home yet this season. The Lions are good, but the Cowboys are even better when playing home. Okay. When you have the Ravens, Ravens versus Miami, Miami's a really good team, but Baltimore's even better. And that proved something last week versus San Francisco, and especially that they're home. Ben Fennell with Iron Eagle will be at the game as well, who we had on the show, one of our top viewers for the year. So I'm taking the Ravens 29-21. Finally, regardless if the Chiefs had a bad week last week, the Chiefs will do good this week. So I'm going to take the Chiefs to win 28-25 by a very close 3-point game. Reason why I say that here is because the Bengals could always put it up close because the Chiefs are not going to make it easy. But considering the loss that the Chiefs had last week, this is their payback time and say, yep, we're winning this one. Yep, we'll take the ticket. We'll punch it in. And I think this is the time to do so. And now is the opportunity to.
All right. So Eli and I are on the same page for the first time in quite a while.
Yes, we do or die together.
We do. We're going to sink or swim, as they say.
Yeah, in the new year, we'll find out.
Right. But those are the games we got our we differ on one game in the college playoffs. So we'll see about that. So great time. We're going to have just a great conversation next week because the playoff picture will be little more clearer. Won't be 100% solid.
Clear, but yeah. And then we'll have the whole college football. We'll have a true answer of how we thought the games went yesterday on Monday.
Yep.
Coming up.
Yep. And listen, let's just jump into Major League Baseball real quick because this is free agent signing, right? The big surprise, maybe not a surprise, but the fact that the Dodgers got Yamamoto to go with Shohei Ohtani,
not a surprise.
That's big news. I kind of thought it might have been the Yankees, but
what Ohtani wants, he gets.
He does. Absolutely. So
and that's what you need to do after spending so much money for him.
Yeah. And listen, couple other notables. Andrelton Simmons, who was a four-time Gold Glove winner, two times with Atlanta, two times with the Dodgers shortstop. He retires. Um, Red Sox signed Lucas Giolito to a $38 million 2-year deal. So they're trying to get back in the game. And the Yankees, one of the players that I liked, and I don't know why people didn't give him credit for what he did for the Yankees. He was very, from a utility perspective, was kind of Falefa, and he actually signed, because they got Verdugo, they made some changes, so I guess there wasn't room for him. But I liked his tenure with the Yankees.
Yeah.
I liked his versatility, and he goes to an in-division rival, the Toronto Blue Jays. So that
Yeah.
was a big deal. Um, so anyway, those are just some notes. We're going to see more signings and so forth going forward, but just wanted to touch on that. We'll skip the NBA and,
Yep.
and for this week because it's just in season games, basically meaningless.
Hmm.
Anyway, so I wanted to go on to just a couple of top stories for because we're into this New Year thing, and I was reflecting back on 2023 and some of the big stories which I thought were big, and I listed three because two of them were first time champions, right? The Denver Nuggets and the
Right.
Texas Rangers, right? Had never
Right.
won anything, and they both come up in the same season and they win their first championship. So I thought that was big for the sport, for the NBA as well as baseball. That was cool to see. And one other story was the in tennis, Coco Gauff winning the U.S. Open. I
Right.
mean
That was huge.
that was very very exciting.
And I
She's
remember
she's
because
an
I was there when we had it and I picked her. So I was happy.
Yeah, so she's an up and comer, and that's not going to be her first major championship. So there are a lot of great stories, and we're going to talk about some of the losses that we had in the world of sports um, near the end of the show. But I just wanted to bring those stories up that they kind of stood out for me. The fact that the Rangers and Nuggets both win their first championship in the same season, thought it was
It's
great.
pretty incredible.
Yeah, so a couple other quick things. As we move on to random points of interest, of course, sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. Happy New Year to you, Mr. Lynch, and your
Happy New Year.
team. Thanks for your undying support for the show. Just a couple of things. So we were talking about the Major League Baseball real quick, and what transpired in New York, right? Both teams had a crappy year, but overall, the Mets invested in Scherzer and Verlander and these high priced. The payroll was outrageous, and they finished fourth. So they will now have the opportunity to pay Major League Baseball back $101 million in this luxury tax for a
Interesting.
fourth place finish. How about that? I
Very
mean,
nice.
I know Steve Cohen has a lot of money, and that probably doesn't mean a lot to him. Hard to believe, but
Yeah.
100 million is 100 million. So
Yeah.
I think if it doesn't work out in Los Angeles with the payroll that they have, this is going to go down as one of the,
Worst
that's going to
trade.
go down as a big bust, just like the 2023 Mets. So,
Absolutely.
yep. And one other random point was Puka Nakua for the Rams. And we talked about the Rams before. Stafford's having a great year. This kid only needs 147 yards to break the all time rookie receiving record held by Bill Gromman from the 1960 Houston Oilers. Um, the only one that's really come close to him in short term was both Justin Jefferson and I think Jamar Chase had a great rookie campaign too.
Right.
So, that's been a big surprise. So he's become a big weapon while Cooper Cup's been out, and
Yeah.
Stafford's having himself a revitalized year. I think last year he was injured most of the time, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's a team that you got to keep an eye on.
Yeah. I'm gonna bring some random points in real quick. We'll start off with this. The NHL Winter Classic is happening on Monday, 3 p.m. It is the only NHL game happening. 3 p.m. on the East Coast, 12 o'clock on
Okay.
the West Coast. It is at T-Mobile Park where the Seattle Mariners play. It features the Knights versus the Kraken. Live on TNT, you can watch it. It's always a fun game to watch outdoors.
Yes, it
Cool.
is. Yes, it is.
And the Devils are 19-13-2. Won yesterday in Ottawa, 62. Travel to Boston today at 7 o'clock, looking for another win, and then off until Wednesday. Meanwhile, We had the 8th Monday night upset with the Ravens over the 49ers. That was just a quick random point I forgot to mention. 8th Monday night upset in a row. Peacock viewership for the Peacock exclusive game for the Bills versus Chargers fell short of Amazon's record. And it was pretty surprising. And I'm not surprised at all because it was not really a great matchup. But the viewership for Peacock did drop down. And by the way, they do have an exclusive playoff wildcard game upcoming. So we'll see if truly the viewerships really win or not. And hopefully it's not a good matchup on Peacock.
This drives me nuts because I am resisting paying for football games, so I didn't even watch the Peacock game. And now that you tell me there's a playoff game on Peacock, that drives me even more crazy.
2 of them on NBC, one of them exclusively on Peacock.
Oh,
so yes,
finally,
the NBA announced that the Knicks-Pistons game upcoming for February 26th has been relocated from Detroit to New York, Madison Square Garden. So get your tickets if you want to see the losing streak Pistons. Tip-off is scheduled for 7:30 p.m. on February 26th, and the schedule changes was due to conflict with the NBA in-season tournament in Detroit. So that will be new from Detroit to New York. So if you want to continue to see the losing tickets and find a really good cheap ticket, go to that game, February 26th, 7:30 p.m. at the Garden now.
It really is amazing that this team with Cade Cunningham and so forth has lost 28 straight games, maybe even 29. I think if they lost last night, but
let's find out. I think they did lose last night.
They might have,
because it would have been all over that they won. Let's see here. They did in fact lose in overtime on Thursday to the Celtics, and they are now 2-29.
Well, you know what? They were even
2-29. Wow.
They were even up by 22 points over Boston at halftime, by the way. So
can we just officially eliminate them from the playoffs already? I know we're not even talking about the playoffs today, babe, but can we just give them the X already that they're eliminated?
I think it's pretty certain that they're mathematically eliminated.
Mathematically, we're not even 2024. They're mathematically eliminated.
Yep. All right, so we got good stuff there from the random points. So Eli, we've exhausted our Christmas movie recommendations and so forth. So we're going to get back to movie recommendations in general.
Yes.
And for me, and those who know me, it starts and ends the discussion with Godfather 1 and Godfather 2, period. And then there's everything else, and we'll bring them up as we go. So, Eli, if I were to ask you, what's Eli Weintraub's favorite movie of all time, what would it be?
I've always loved Transportation. My favorite movie of all time, Unstoppable with Denzel Washington and Chris Pine. I love that movie. It's a true story. It is based off of the CSX Train 888, the Crazy 8 story. It derailed. They were trying to stop it. It was an unmanned train. They stopped it, and then they redid a movie about it with AVWR's the rail company, Denzel Washington, the throttle. It's such a great movie. I love it. My favorite one. I could watch that day and night if I could.
Okay. Actually, I've never seen it, but I bet you've never seen Godfather 1 or 2 either, right?
No, I've seen Godfather 1 and 2. So yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Unstoppable. Yeah, watch Unstoppable. I think it's a great movie. It's a real good story. It's a true story too.
Yeah, but you still have homework to do because you haven't seen Rudy yet.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Okay.
But we have St. Mary. I was at St. Mary's all this week, so
okay.
Covering the Jackson tournament. Congratulations, St. Mary's, by the way, winning Jackson's tournament.
Okay, so like I said, let's do our photos of the week. Like I said, it was a great holiday. I got to spend with our families, and that's what it's all about. So
one moment, I will get yours.
Yep.
Hold on, and here we go. Here's yours.
There's mine with my 2 daughters. Like I said, I couldn't be more proud of them. So that's a great picture, and I think we have one from
Elijah's. It represents our Christmas tree. Our Christmas tree from the holiday season at our home.
Wow, that's a nice tree. Very nice.
All right.
So, hope everybody enjoyed their Christmas.
Yes, we hope, and Happy New Year to everybody, as we still have one more segment to go to.
Yep. So let's jump right into the notable passing segments. And from the world of sports, I just saw this morning was Joey Meyer, who was the head coach at DePaul basketball for 17 years. He actually took over for his father, Ray Meyer. It blew me away to see that Joey Meyer was 74. So that makes time have slipped away because I remember his father being the coach, and but he had some good. He was a good coach. Had some good teams. Had like guys like Mark Aguirre. I think may have been one of those players. Was it Mark Aguirre?
I think so.
Anyway, but Joey Meyer was 74 and a good head coach in college basketball. And from the world of entertainment, Tom Smothers, one of the Smothers brothers, who had, like I said, they were a unique brand of humor in a very unique time in our country's history. It was, the ending of the Vietnam War and the whole counterculture thing of the late 60s, early 70s. But, these guys had a voice. And their comedy was brilliant and their writing was brilliant, but they got knocked down a little bit because of their political views when back then the political views had to go with
It was different.
who the bosses were running the network. So he was 86 years old, and it's funny because I just saw a piece on CBS Sunday Morning on the Smothers Brothers like a month ago. So that's notable. And Eli, just to recap from our notable passings, just a few handful of people that we lost this past year from the world of sports. And, one was Bill Russell and Willis Reed, Vita Blue. I put down some other guys, Bobby Hull, Brooks Robinson, Bud Grant, Dick Butkus, Jim Brown. And, maybe the most popular of all of those players could have been Pele. This is his 1 year
Oh, absolutely.
anniversary. Yeah. So we every year, right? We mentioned probably every single one of those guys in our notable passings. I just wanted to remind people, that we lost some great people in the world of sports, which we
Yeah,
do every year.
and entertainment
Um,
too. One of the biggest ones is Bob Barker for me. Price is Right.
yeah,
As a game show lover, I love game shows, and
yeah, and we
absolutely.
like I said, from the world of entertainment, we see stuff, Betty White and all these kind of things. We
All
we
these.
bring these guys up because they had an impact on the culture and the things that
Yeah,
society brings us. But obviously, the world of sports lost many, many big names
huge
and
name.
influential players in their sport. So, wanted to give a shout out to them. So, listen, um, wow, we covered a lot of stuff
We covered
here
a
in
lot
a
in
really
52
short
minutes.
time,
Incredible.
right? So next week will be no different. We'll have just as much material to talk about, and like I said, we'd love for you to send comments and on the YouTube and Facebook uh,
Wherever you're watching.
programs, and send us an email at sportswithmano@email.com. And I just wanted to wish all of our loyal listeners a very happy and prosperous
Happy
and
New
safe
Year.
2024. And Eli,
Absolutely.
that goes to you and the
Yes.
Weintraub clan. And
Yes. And for all
like I
you,
said, I had an
Happy New Year.
opportunity to meet your dad, a few weeks back, and it was great. So I feel, that you guys are more and more part of this family of the
Yes.
show, and we're gonna have a great year. We're gonna try some different things and
New stuff
and
on the way.
evolve our program and increase our viewership. And like I said, I can't thank everybody enough for their support in 2023. So,
Yes. Happy New
and
Year,
that
everybody.
includes you. That includes you.
Thank you. It's been an honor to be part of the show for the entire 2023, and 2024 will be just as great.
That's right. So of course that means it's a honeymooners marathon. You can't deny that. That's the best part about New Year's. So anyway,
All right.
so Eli, be safe for New Year's, and
Yes.
thank you for all you contributed to the show
Yes.
this year. Looking forward to more of that in 2024. And to all our loyal listeners, Happy New Year, folks.
Happy New Year. Good night. Bye
Be
bye.
good.